This video is brought to you by morethanArealestateagent.com, your number one source for real estate merch on the internet. Use code YouTube for 10% off your first order. Tips that you'd like to add that's going to help new agents.
Actually, there is one. So this is like my top secret trick that I don't think I have personally not seen anybody do.
Okay, let me get a little closer so I can hear it.
Yeah, man, it's just wild. And even Mike Sherrard never talks about it.
What's going on, everyone? It's your brother, your uncle, your favorite realtor's favorite realtor, and we are back with another podcast episode called The Blueprint with Marvin Oria. And I am very excited. You know, you'll oftentimes hear folks talk about being super excited, but I'm very, very, very excited. If that's another level above being super excited, because I am talking with Mr. Jonathan Powell. He is a real estate professional out of Maryland, and he and I have quite a few similarities that we thought, you know, a few weeks ago that it would be good to hop on a quick podcast to talk through, tell our story, because there's a lot of synchronicity in our stories and ultimately why we arrived at where we are. Mr. Jonathan is a real estate professional with Real Broker, and if you'd like to talk to him or myself after today's call about any aspect of the podcast that we covered today, and a potential alignment with Real Brokerage to see what that looks like, I will put his contact information in the podcast of this, in the description of the podcast of this video. So we're going to jump right in. Mr. Jonathan, tell the folks a little bit about yourself, where you're based out of, and we'll just jam out.
Yeah, 100%, man. And I got to say, I am probably even more excited than you are. If you're very, very excited, I'm very, 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 very excited.
I love it. Love it. Love it.
It's always good to find somebody else who's been walking a similar journey and just crisscross later on down the road. It's pretty darn cool. So I'll just start off by saying, my journey myself is very windy, like a lot of other folks. So I actually got licensed back in 2016 in New York. So I was about 45 minutes north of New York City, and I was working with a real estate investment company. So we were flipping single family homes out there. And I was like, you know what? I should get my real estate license, That's going to help me do these flips.
Yeah.
And, like a lot of folks, I got smacked in the mouth really quick.
As is the case for many of us, for sure.
Yep. So I ended up proverbially hanging my license with a really small mom and pop's brokerage in Austining. And it was really just the broker, 3 part-time agents and me. And I always like to joke that the technology that we got was the printer, and that was about it.
That's funny.
So similar to the technology, the training was pretty pretty rudimentary. It was just he and I kind of sitting down together and being like, all right, this is the contract, and we got a paper copy, and that's what we got, man. And so anyway, long story short, I ended up just kind of crashing and burning. I got into the groove of calling 100, expires and FSBOs, and I actually got a couple clients, but it was just so hard for me to do that direct sales and working with those types of clients that I was like, you know what? This is probably not for me. But the funny thing is, I had bought a Matterport camera, a drone.
Oh, wow.
Because I was like, I'm going to be a big listing agent. I'm going to do all these $1 million listing stuff. So I ended up realizing, okay, this real estate agency stuff is very hard for me. I'm losing money. At the time, I had to move from a very nice place in Southern Connecticut on the Gold Coast to a ratty apartment in the Bronx with no heat, no air conditioning. I killed 6 rats, in the process. And in the wintertime, I had these big blankets that I would put over top of the windows just to keep the cold from coming in.
Okay.
It was tough, So I was like, all right, let me go ahead and just use this camera equipment to, do media for the other agents that were in the brokerage and others. So I ended up finding a lot of success there. Ended up moving from New York down to DC, started working with a small local brokerage that had about 50 agents, did all of their media, all their marketing, kind of leveled up, started working with the #1 team in all of Virginia. They do about 1,000 transactions a year.
Nice.
Was in charge of all their media across not only the DMV, but also in Colorado, Texas. And so I got really good at media, and that was helpful. and I ended up building my team to having 11 people.
Okay.
And like, you know what? Let me get into marketing. Let me start getting my clients too.
Yes.
And so now I'm doing the media, I'm doing the marketing. I'm like, shoot, I'm helping agents sell the homes and get clients.
Yeah.
Doing 80% of the work. Let me become an agent. So that's when I decided about in October that I should get my license again and just start working as a real estate agent. But I'm really grateful for that whole 7 years of running that production team, because it gave me a lot of exposure to all the different types of brokerages that we had, that are out there.
Now, Jonathan, let me ask you, is your partnership with Real, is this your first cloud-based brokerage experience? Because you started obviously in the more traditional sense, but is this your first foray, being here with Real, is this your first foray into the cloud-based real estate model?
So it's actually not. So when I was looking at brokerages to get my own license, I was kind of between. I was friends with the vice president of Sotheby's here in DC. He's the COO.
Okay.
And I had a lot of agent friends in Compass, and I had a lot of friends in eXp. And so those were my top 3 choices. And I was looking for basically whoever was going to give me the best technology.
Yeah.
So after diving into Sotheby's for a little while, I realized, okay, actually, it's pretty darn antiquated as a brokerage. So that just left me with Compass and eXp.
Right.
And I was like, you know what? Compass is really interesting, but eXp has more of what I'm looking for. And ultimately, it was just way more financially efficient too. So I started out in eXp, and I'm not sure if your viewers know, but Mike Sherrard, he's the #1 attractor for agents across the world for eXp. He's got big group called the Wolfpack.
Right.
And I really, really wanted to be part of his group because he is a king of YouTube. He's got tons of agents in his group that teach about Instagram and TikTok. And I just knew that no way was I going to go back to cold calling, FSBOs, and expireds.
Right.
And, I've got all this experience now in media and marketing. I was 100% set on working with Mike Sherrard in the Wolfpack. So I ended up switching to those guys.
So you left the smaller brokerage experience, and then you joined one of the top attractors at a cloud-based model, but you're here with Real. So I gotta ask, obviously, I know a lot about all of the cloud-based models. I too, for those watching, many of you know, of course, that I came from, eXp. My journey started with a mom and pop as well, before I ultimately spent 3 years at eXp. I didn't join any of the well-known, uplines, downlines, or any of that. My experience there was a little bit different, but being that you came from, if not the top attraction upline group at eXp, but you're here with Real, so I have to assume that there must have been something along that journey there that caused you to take the pivot. So share with folks, because I know there are a lot of folks that are, obviously, if you know about my content, you know about Real Brokerage, you know about my story joining Real Brokerage, but you may be looking at one of 2 cloud-based models, us and of course eXp are one of the other guys. So tell folks your story, man. How was your experience there and what ultimately led to the pivot? Hey, if you've made it this far in the video and you are a real estate professional, consider partnering with me here at Real Brokerage. Pay nothing per month, get a fantastic split, and you have the opportunity to build a business through revenue share and stock purchases. Book a call at the link below in today's video, and I'm happy to have a conversation on why I was able to grow my business exponentially by moving my practice to Real Brokerage. All right, back to the video.
Just for context, I decided to totally disband, wind down my media production marketing team. So by the time I went to eXp, it was just me, my virtual assistant, a TC that I lined up, and a photographer that I've kept on, photographer, videographer. Okay. So I'm 100% full bore into real estate. I take all the courses. In my mind, I'm doing what I wanted to do, which was about a property a month in my first 5 months.
That's not bad.
To do that. And I took my social medias from literally 0 to about 5,000 followers on Instagram. And that was just kind of my strategy. So everything was playing out really well. I was absolutely not looking at other brokerages. And in fact, I was kind of really cognizant about having blinders on, because you know how it is when you get a good strategy that's working, you're just like, you know what, I got to shut everything else out and just do the thing that's currently working. So it was really strange because a agent reached out to me and he found me on social media and he was like, hey, listen, I've got a waterfront land listing down in Southern Maryland. I would like for you to help me do this. And I was like, you're an agent licensed in Maryland, albeit, yeah, you're in DC, but you want me to take this land listing for you. And it was his own property, that he actually owned. So found it really strange, but he was like, you know what, I'm going through a lot of stuff personally. I just don't have the bandwidth for this. And I'd like for you to be the guy. And I'm like, okay, let's go. So I ended up having a great transaction with him, sold the property very quickly. It all went well. And so he ended up sending me a message and he was like, Jonathan, what you're doing on social media is really cool. I want to get you in touch with another guy who's doing like a video power labs in DC. He's inviting Daniel Hyder. He's the #1 viewed agent in all the world right now. And he's like, I'd like for you to, get with these guys and talk about social media. And I was like, this sounds great. So we ended up talking and he's like, yeah, tell me more about what you're doing. How can I help you? And I was like, well, I'm good. I'm happy to be involved. I was like, so what brokerage are you guys with? And he's like, oh, Real. And I'm like, okay, like, what, are you guys like another cloud-based brokerage or what? And he starts telling me about it. And I'm hearing about the technology. I'm hearing about the splits. I'm hearing about the community. I'm hearing about the culture. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Like this sounds very much like all the good things that I like about eXp. But the wild thing about it was I was I guess and while this, everyone starts off where they start off, the first thing that kind of piqued my interest was, okay, you got a $16,000 cap with eXp, $285 transaction fee, and the monthly fee and whatnot. And even though like I was doing well, I'm still very cognizant of how much money I make and how much money I keep. So when I heard that, basically, it seemed like Real had all the good things that I liked about eXp, but it was just a little bit cheaper. That was kind of like the first thing that opened up that door for me. There's some other things, but that was like the first opening and entrance. Is just that good experience with that one realtor and him connecting with another guy named Jason Martin.
Well, it's funny because my way of finding out about Real, Real was always on my radar, but I just didn't know enough about it. And I was looking like, okay, well, this cloud-based model, that's the route I want to go. I don't want to schlep into an office on Monday mornings for meetings and coffee. I don't want to do that. I need to be nimble. And this was during the pandemic as well. So it really worked for me from a work from home standpoint. And it wasn't until one of the agents that I sponsored at eXp had asked me about Real. And they were like, well, Marvin, I'm a loyal person and I want you to look into this because I'm hearing a lot of information about this company and I don't want to make the leap unless you tell me it's something that you consider doing as well, because I'd like you to still continue to be my sponsor. So obviously from like a retention standpoint, Jonathan, I was like, okay, I'm going to find as much dirt on this company as I can. And I'm just going to say find all this negative stuff about Real and so that I can retain this agent that I sponsor, because it was a really good agent. And so I went down the rabbit hole of YouTube University and I found a lot of people that I looked up to in the industry, the Move Me to Texas team with Katie Day, Brad McCallum, of course, out in Canada, doing some amazing things with video. And that's where I was going with my business is video. That's this podcast, of course, is being broadcast on YouTube. And so for agents that are really focused on leads coming to them from video, and we'll kind of talk through leads in a little bit, the majority of those types of agents are with Real brokerage. And then the economics, of course, makes sense, man. Not having to pay a monthly fee, not having to pay any fees whatsoever until you actually have a transaction. That tends to be a more appetizing approach to the business, especially if you're a new agent. You have yet to get your first deal. You're fine paying fees, when you actually have a deal. But that ongoing monthly, because I had an agent that was kind of low-key trolling a little bit, saying, well, Marvin, you're going to change your entire career for $85 a month. That doesn't make a lot of sense. And I was like, no, I'm thinking it's not a big deal for me as a producing agent, but the agents that depend on me and those agents that are, having life happen, they have to make those pivots, and they're counting all the costs. And if I'm looking at bread and my real estate fees that I pay to the brokerage and not having to deal with that any longer, but I still get all of the benefits of a brokerage that supports, the economics just kind of made it a win-win-win. So yeah,
it's kind of like one of those simple things where it's super easy to grasp intellectually. And so that's one of the things that like makes that be an opener for the door. But it's definitely, while it may be the first thing that you may see and may pique your interest, it's definitely not the thing that actually makes you make the jump.
Yeah. It's got to be more. It's got to be more. The tech, like you mentioned, is next level. Lofty is the CRM that I use. But in addition to that, the reason, when I tell you, John, that's been a one-stop shop for my transactions.
Dude, I've been
commissions. I mean, it's just been, this isn't necessarily a pitch for real, but if you're watching this, obviously, it may be something that you may want to look into, because you got a guy here that left one of the biggest groups at eXp to join, and you're one of thousands of agents that have made the pivot to real, and the technology has just been next level. But one of the things that I think is important for a lot of agents, Jonathan, and I want you to kind of speak to this, is leads and how to generate business as a real estate agent. How has your alignment with real helped in that capacity?
Yeah, so one of the things that I think people fear a lot, or at least the thing that I feared when I was leaving the Wolfpack, was, well, am I going to get the same level of masterminds and trainings that I'm getting at eXp? Because at the Wolfpack, we've got like 5 masterminds a week that we can go to.
Right.
You have all these courses. You have no shortage of people who are not only have built out really good systems, but are continuing to keep those things updated. And so I was like, hey, listen, I'm in a great place, but I don't want to fall behind. So really, when I was going through Real Academy, I was specifically looking, okay, are there people who are teaching about what's happening now with especially Instagram? And I knew that I wanted to get a really good YouTube channel up and running, because while Instagram helps me get these local folks, I knew YouTube was ultimately where I wanted to invest some time to get some folks who are doing relocation. So my number one way of getting new clients with social media, and how basically Real has helped that. Well, I'll get to how Real has helped that in a second, but basically it's through Instagram. And I put out basically 2 types of content. So the first is a weekly update about what's happening in my local area. So I live in St. Mary's County, which has about 102,000 people in it. So my thinking is 1 to 3% of those 102,000 people are ready to buy or sell, right? So I just got to go after everybody, get everybody interested in knowing who I am, by providing them value, and then it'll make those conversations a lot easier. So I make a video about all the things that are happening that week, whether that's concerts, festivals, boxing matches, stuff for the kids, historical events, whatever it might be. I'm talking about it. And then the second piece of content is local business owner interviews. So with the baker, the gym owners, there's escape rooms, there's all kinds of restaurants and, marinas, and it's been a lot of fun. And so like I started in October of last year, and it just went super fast, like up to 5,000 followers of people that are like looking at my stuff every single day. We're getting 5,000, 10,000 views. And what's even cooler is like I did a video of this guy's taco truck, brand new taco truck. I went into the back, and he's like, all right, today we're gonna, show you guys how to make al pastor. And so, I get a video of him making al pastor. Video blows up. Tons of people are like, I'm going to that taco place tomorrow. And he gets flooded with customers. And that guy was just so appreciative. He was like, Jonathan, he was like, I know you're a real estate agent. I'm not ready to buy right now, but as soon as I am, I'm definitely going to be hitting you up. And I'm like, dude, like that's what it's about. So it's kind of there's pros and cons to the strategy, because on one hand, like it's an incredible way to go about building up a lot of like equity in the relationships between me and the small business owners in the area. And that's really great because, of course, a lot of those folks are people who have a good deal of cash, you know, and so, that's not a bad connection to make. But it's also like making me kind of like the local mayor of the town, where I'll go to the grocery store, or I even went to the dentist's office the other day and I'm wearing glasses. You know what I mean? Like I'm wearing shades and I'm there with my daughter, and I just come out of the door, and within not even 3 seconds, a woman's like, "Hey, are you the county connoisseur? Are you the guy doing all those interviews?" Like, you recognize me?
Wow.
But it's kind of cool in that way. So like even the local judges or the local women who are running for judge, they're like, "Hey, Jonathan, can you interview us on your channel so we can get exposed to voters?" And I was like, "Sure." So I interviewed the Democrat, interviewed the Republican. People were, of course, you know, opinionated about those interviews, but at the same time,
politics.
it was just like, this is wild, you know. But it's been the number one lead source for me. So what I'll do is, as I get followers, I'll basically DM them saying, "Hey, thanks for following my channel. By the way, are you interested in me highlighting any particular types of businesses?" And once we get the conversation started, I'd be like, "Okay, so are you a local? Are you from out of the area?" And a lot of times the number one demographic is people who've just moved to the area or planning on moving to the area.
Wow.
So then I'll say, "Okay, cool. Well, like, what brought you in here?" And they'll say, "Oh, well, I'm working on the naval base," or, you know, I'm here because of working in DC, but I want to move out of the city. And so I'll say, "Okay, cool. Like, have you already thought about where you want to live, or whether you're going to rent or you're going to buy? You're going to, you know, take some time to, you know, get to know the area." And boom, that begins a conversation, and it's just been incredible for me.
And I think that, you know, that's one of the powerful things about social media, specifically YouTube. And I say this all the time, Jonathan. YouTube is the only platform that will pay you to advertise your business. Other places you have to pay to get, you know, notoriety or any type of visibility for yourself and for your business. But YouTube is a search engine whose job is to keep people on that platform as long as possible. Of course, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, they're all the same thing. They want to keep you on that platform as long as possible. And so for me, I kind of steering more towards how can I serve the audience and teach them about some aspect of real estate without necessarily talking about, here's the home that I just listed or here's the home that I just sold. I think that people are looking for information that's going to help them in their day. So you highlighting local businesses, that's a win-win-win. For you, it gets eyeballs on your platform, as you mentioned. That makes you look like the local expert for those individuals that are in another state thinking about moving there. For two, it helps the business. So I would assume that you get free Al Pastor for the rest of your life at some.
Oh yeah, 100%. You wouldn't even believe.
And then obviously when that business owner thinks about real estate, or one of their customers comes to them talking about in any way, shape, form, or fashion real estate, they're going to turn into an evangelist for you and say, "Hey, call my guy Jonathan. He will take care of you," because of the way that's how reciprocity works. You poured into his business for free for him. You gave him free business visibility, but it will pay an ROI for you in the end. And then lastly, the revenue from the views from YouTube, the lead gen that comes from YouTube or social media, people are going to hit your profile and start booking calls, as you mentioned, because they're going to see you as their guide for all things related to moving to Maryland. So it's a trifecta. It's a win-win-win.
Absolutely. And I'll actually mention one other thing that I forgot to mention, which was that, well, number one, Instagram is actually what I'm using. Well, where I'm most popular. I do have the YouTube page, but it's actually Instagram, which is where I'm getting most of the engagement.
Love it.
And that being said, probably like 5-7 videos in, business owners started asking me like, "Hey, how much does it cost?" They wouldn't even ask. They would just say, "Hey, how much does it cost to be featured?"
Wow.
And I was like, "Oh, no, it's free, no problem. You know, I'm just doing this, you know, to build up the culture in the community in the area," which is absolutely the case. But then after a while, I was like, you know what? Like, maybe I could cover my costs because I have a professional videographer and editor, you know, doing this. Maybe I can cover my costs with these guys. And so I'm charging $300 a video. And people are like, "That's it?" let's do it. So I'm actually making $300 a video, and at a video a week, that's, $1,200 a month. And that basically covers my production costs for those videos. So that's been really, really helpful. And also, you were talking about getting free Outback store. Dude, I can't even tell you, like, this sign was given to me for free. I got free tickets to go to a boxing concert, boxing match, concerts, all kinds of stuff. I mean, tattoos, you wouldn't believe it. Just
I love it.
Whatever anybody's like, even I got a free 3-hour rental for a pontoon boat with a captain and everything. And we have a floating tiki bar around this place called Solomon's Island within St. Mary's County too.
Okay.
And they're like, hey man, you want to bring 6 of your friends or whatever? You can go on the floating tiki bar, take all your guys out around the island. So it's just it's been a great opportunity for not only like me and my friends and my family, but also ways for me to really shower my clients with incredible closing gifts. So it's been very cool.
So I want to ask, I'm assuming when you just said that you'll get little things from each of these businesses and kind of make like a new to the city starter pack, if you will, as part of your closing gift to your clients?
So I'll share the grand vision that I haven't yet implemented, but I'm working towards it. So basically what I'm planning on doing is having a web page where I have all the businesses listed with the thing that they're willing to give all of my followers. Wow. So if I'm talking to a barbershop and they oftentimes give half off for the first cut, if they have their county connoisseur card, which is just basically, a business card with a QR code on it, then they can scan that, go to the webpage and see, oh, hey, this barbershop is giving me 50% off because I'm a county connoisseur, and now they get 50% off. And every single business has said, yeah, I'd be totally happy to give your people a free oil change, or at least free labor on the oil change. The local oil delivery place said that they would give my people 10% off their first, fill up of their oil.
Wow.
You just name it. Every single business has a promotion, and they're basically saying that they'd be happy to have me say that because you're a county connoisseur, because you're one of my members, and because you give me your name, email, phone number, and home address, you've got the card mailed to you. They're willing to basically give them those discounts. So it is another way for me to provide value to my audience.
To
say, hey, because you're a part of my audience, I'm negotiating on your behalf with all these businesses already. Just imagine how I'm going to negotiate for you when it comes to selling your home. So
that's powerful, man. That's powerful. And I always say the good Lord doesn't waste anything. So you have that marketing media background experience to have the foresight to think about creating, for lack of a better word, a card that not only is showing you as the real estate professional, but it's something that can add value if these individuals go to any of these several businesses. And then that's going to show those businesses, hey, we need to pay more attention to what Jonathan's doing. We need to give him even more. Or other businesses will ask, hey, what is this card I saw that routes people to your business? So then it just begins to balloon out of control. So that's pretty powerful, Jonathan. I'm going to steal that idea, by the way. I'm going to rip that off and duplicate it here in Atlanta.
Anybody that's interested in learning about that, I am so happy to share, because the thing is, I'm not going to be doing this for even the adjacent counties, County, Charles County, any of the local agents in those areas. I'm like, hey, you want to steal my stuff? Dude, I will tell you everything.
Yeah.
And you're right. God has been so good to me. I actually studied to be a priest for 5 years.
Oh, wow.
And I had no idea how that was going to make its way to where I'm at now.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, even I thought when I was planning this, I was like, oh yeah, this is going to work out well. It's done so much better than I had even imagined.
Super powerful, man. Super powerful. And I think that as a newer agent, I mean, Jonathan, you're giving so many keys that a person could implement on day one, because obviously the traditional way of going about things that you hear people talk about is you got to make cold calls, you got to do door knocking. But I think for the modern agent in 2024 and beyond, we have to embrace video, embrace social media, and incentivize others to continue to speak on our behalf, especially if you're new. Hitting up multiple businesses and building those relationships with them for free, but it gives you content that you can create, take, package, and distribute that makes you look like the, again, mayor of your city. In addition to that, or packaging that, what would you tell a brand new agent right now in this current market that has yet to get their first deal? What are some tips and some strategies that you would suggest for within the next 30, 60, 90 days, to get out of the blocks? And also, what would you tell an agent that's been in the business for a very long time but hasn't closed much of anything and is thinking about getting out of the business? How can they reinvigorate themselves in this business?
Yeah, so it's really going to depend on what you bring to the table. So what I mean by that is everybody has certain things that they can do for others that are going to be valuable, right? So for some, like let's say in a really experienced agent,
yes,
the thing that they have of value is their deep knowledge of the market. So giving that information out is going to be something that's very valuable to the people that are interested in it. If you're newer, sharing your learning process can also be very very effective. And one way that you can go about doing that is by and I'm saying this because the local home inspection company, All-in-One Home Inspections, they reached out to me and said, hey, listen, we would love to do a collaboration with you. And so we started talking. I was like, okay, well, how can we collab? Truthfully, I don't know very much about or at least I didn't, about the electrical problems that you can spot, mold, and how to spot, problems with the structure of the home or, water damage. I didn't know about bubbling and cracking and, looking to see whether or not the floors are even and what that might mean and how those can be fixed. And so I realized I had this big knowledge deficit myself. And if you're a new agent, believe me, you've got huge knowledge deficits that you need to then close the gap for. So my thinking was, okay, well, I can just follow along. I can just shadow a home inspector for like 3 days a week, create all this content about me saying, hey, listen, I'm here with All-in-One, and guess what we just found? This is the problem, and this is why. And so by just sharing all that information about hey, here are the things that you can spot in a home that are problems, and here's how to address it. That sharing of information as a new agent, as you're learning, is just incredible. So I'd say as a general rule of thumb, you want to give as much as you possibly can to many people. The more value that you can give to other people, the more sales you're going to get. And I know that seems counterintuitive to somebody that's new, and it took me a long time in business to recognize that. But the truth of the matter is that, especially with real estate, it is a relationship business. And I know it may sound like you've heard that 1,000 times and you're going to be like, oh, well, what does that really mean? What it really means is you have to form as many relationships as possible. And the way that you go about making friends is you be as generous as you possibly can. Generous with your time, generous with your emotional, capacity, generous with your talents. You just got to find whatever is the thing that you can give to the most people. That should be your strategy to go about getting more deals.
I love it. I love it. And it's going to take time. It's going to take time to build those types of relationships. It's never going to be like a one-off thing. I talk with agents quite often that ask me different questions about what they like about how I approach video or how I approach, marketing and whatnot. And they tell me how this thing may not work for them because of XYZ excuse. And I just think at the end of the day, you have to take what you believe you can copy and implement and then make it work for you, keeping in mind that it's gonna take time. You got to play the long game in this business. There is no microwave way of going from 0 deals to $1 million listing. Trust and believe, if it was there, I'd be doing it. But it's gonna take building trust with those individuals, your potential audience, and it's even going to take building trust within yourself. That way you don't feel any level of imposter syndrome, like you really know your local market. And it doesn't necessarily have to be because you're able to run off certain facts, how many days on market or what's the average, closing amount. You don't necessarily need to know all of that, but take one aspect of real estate and be as into it as possible. They always say it's a really good quote that I've seen is, I would rather, I don't fear the man that's learned 1,000 different kicks. I fear the man that's learned one kick and done it 1,000 times.
Yeah.
So be the expert at one or two things relative to real estate sales, and you're gonna have success. Because if you act like you don't know what you're doing, but you act like you do know what you're doing, you're gonna look like an idiot. That's the best advice I can give an agent. So fake it till you make it. Doesn't work anymore. You truly have to be a practitioner of this business, and you shadowing other individuals in other aspects of real estate is only going to make you a better real estate professional as well. So I think that is incredibly practical and information that a new agent should be doing on day one.
Yeah, 100%. And the other thing too is that it's so fun. You know what I mean? Like, as I think about it, like cold calling people, knocking on doors, that is the antithesis of fun. But if you can just like take the thing that you like doing, let's say it's smoking cigars, you go to the cigar lounge, you talk to the other guys, you provide them the value of a good conversation. When new people come in, you show them how to light a cigar, whatever it might be. If you like boating, it's like you go to the sailing club, you ask people if they need some help scraping the barnacles off their boats. You do that kind of stuff to like make friends. Or if you like cars, like be out there at the car meetings and stuff like that, and provide the kind of value that you can. So it can be such a fun way to go about building your business.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Well, this is so practical, and I am excited to watch the replay of this podcast, Jonathan, because you have given me several things that I'm going to be implementing. I'm going to suggest the agents that I mentor and coach to implement, and I just think that that's how we build this thing out, is we help each other. And one of the great things about Real is that the information isn't siloed. Like, if you're not a part of this group, you don't get this information. That's what some other places do. But here at Real, we are very generous with the help and information that's going to help any agent. You're in Maryland, I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, but we're still connected because we ultimately, if we help others succeed, then the entire brokerage and the industry will be better off for it. So before we land the plane here, Jonathan, are there any other tips that you'd like to add that's going to help new agents?
Actually, there is one. So this is like my top secret like trick that I don't think I have personally not seen anybody do.
Okay, let me get a little closer so I can hear it.
Yeah, man, it's just wild. And even Mike Sherrard like never talks about it. So you think about organic versus paid, right? Everyone talks about those two dichotomies when it comes to content. Right. But the reality is and the reason is because people take their paid advertising and they use it for direct response advertising. Hey, check out the First Time Home Buyers Accelerator. Hey, here's my seller's guide. Here's my buyer's guide, right? It's very salesy. And that's one of the reasons for why you have to, people think that if you spend money on advertising, you've got to get a direct lead from it. Or people think, okay, if you're doing all the soft stuff, like talking about the fun things happening in your area, or you're talking about whatever home inspections, don't spend any money on that. Only spend all your time, which is, very valuable. But like, why not spend money on the fun stuff? Yes. You know what I mean? Like the stuff that people are most interested in, that's the stuff that you got to pour the gasoline on.
Right.
So if you look at any kind of TV show, whether it's that 70s show or any of the random shows that are being played right now, they always have commercials for the shows. Yes. And they pay money for those commercials. And so what I did was I said, okay, let me make a commercial for my Instagram channel. So basically, if I were to deliver the script of what I'm actually saying in this paid advertisement, it's, hey, if you live in St. Mary's County and you want to know what's happening in the area, check this out. I have an Instagram channel in which I talk about all the fun events that are happening this weekend, and I talk about local business owners to give a face behind the businesses and help build culture and community here in this area. So if you're interested in being plugged into everything that's fun here in St. Mary's County and you want to get involved with the community, then check out my Instagram channel and give me a follow.
I love that.
Well, and then basically the call to action is just to view my profile on Instagram. So when people click that, boom, they go right over to my Instagram channel and follow me. And whereas when I was doing the media and marketing company for, all these different agents for the last 7 years, I would get $5 leads, $10 leads, $125 leads for sellers. I'm getting 25-cent leads.
Wow.
This different strategy. And it's just, as I said, it's a secret sauce. So that would be my last tip for my lead strategy. The last thing that I'd want to say just about kind of like this transition from eXp to Real.
Yeah.
Really, it was 3 things. It was the economic efficiency of Real over eXp. That was kind of the first thing that started things off for me. The second thing was really the technology. I was just blown away by the fact that everything is natively built. And when it comes to glitches within technology, which everyone hates, the reason for why there's glitches more often than not is because different non-natively built together applications are just bolted on. You think about like KV Core is a great example. They just bought some text messaging company, plugged it up to their, email builder. They just bought an email provider and plugged up to their software. And that's kind of like how KV Core builds out their stuff. Difference between Real's technology and like those other platforms is that our designers are building everything from the ground up to be integrated together natively. And so that's what makes everything really user-friendly in terms of UX user experience. But that's what keeps it from glitching so much. So that was the second thing is I was like, dude, technology is like what I dreamed it was going to be at eXp, but it's actually the reality at Real. And the third thing is really just the one Real community. So whereas I knew that I was part of the best silo when it comes to eXp, I knew that there was no way that any single silo was ever going to be as powerful as an entire brokerage. There aren't 19,000 people in the Wolfpack. There's 19,000 people in Real, and we all, whether we like it or not, have got to share our secrets. It's not necessarily share our secrets if we don't want to, but if we're going to be doing what we're doing, which is sharing our strategies openly, we have to do it with everybody in the brokerage. And so that's a huge advantage to the folks that are new or that are trying to learn how to change their business to meet the modern world. And it's really helpful for anybody that's just simply trying to attract other agents to the brokerage. Is you don't have to be the single source of wisdom for people. It's like, hey, I know my one thing, you're really good at your one thing, and all of us contributing, everyone gets the best of each person. So those are really the 3 things that made me make the switch. And if somebody is hearing those and is like, you know what, that all makes sense for me. Cool. If it doesn't, and you're like, you know what, those are not things that I'm interested in. Those are not things that I care about. Also cool. As you said at the very beginning of the call, we're not trying to sell any particular point of view. I'm just excited to have this opportunity to just share what's worked for me.
That's powerful, man. That's super powerful. And the last thing that I do want to mention about the brokerage is the co-sponsorship model. So there may be aspects of the business and the marketing and everything that an agent would want to align with you on. There may be aspects of how I approach my business that a person would like to lean on as well. So if you're out there, and that's the great thing about Real, is that you don't have to choose Jonathan or Marvin. You can have the success and the track record and the insight of Jonathan and Marvin in order to help you in your business. So again, the model here, Real, I think 10 years from now, this company is going to be the top brokerage in the world. I really, truly, I mean, the way that it's built, it has all of the aspects of many of the brokerages that are out there, but none of the deficiencies, none of the downside. Of course, no brokerage is perfect, but Real is as close to perfection for an agent that wants to operate and receive a huge compensation package that's not offered anywhere else, the way that it's structured, but also the ability to build a life outside of real estate when you're done selling houses through the revenue share model here that is more advantageous to real estate agents than other places that have a revenue share model. But again, having the ability to have 2 sharks, if you will. I love Shark Tank growing up. So that co-sponsorship option is just, I want to be the number one co-sponsor. I want to share the wealth with as many agents that are like-minded to myself as possible. And it just gives the agent that decides to pick multiple co-sponsors the greatest chance of success possible, because you're never going to reach Mike Sherrard in person. And there's nothing, I'm just using him as an example. If I'm in Texas, there's not really much that someone like a Mike Sherrard could offer outside of the YouTube. And being able to get tactical ground level support specific to Maryland or specific to Georgia or whatever the case is, it just makes this model here a win-win-win.
100%. Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more, because we're both going to be invested in anybody's journey. And there's certain things that Marvin's a killer at, and there's certain things that I'm specialized in as well. So happy to share anything that people want to know.
I love it, man. I love it. Well, landing the plane here, Jonathan, let folks know, how can they get in touch with you? Where's your jam on a regular basis as it relates to social media, so folks can keep an eye on what you got going? What's the best way for folks to connect with you?
Yeah, 100%. Like, my handle on pretty much everything is going to be The Real Broker Guide. And I'm on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. I'll go ahead and share with you my calendar link as well, so you can have that. But if you search Jonathan Powell, The Real Broker Guide, you'll be sure to find me, and I'm happy to help you out.
I love it. I love it. And I will put all of Jonathan's information in the show notes of this podcast. Jonathan, you have been a wealth of strategic, practical, actionable information, and that's always appreciated on this platform, because that's what we're all about, is no fluff information that you can use on day one to grow your business. Let me know in the comments below of this podcast what were some of your key takeaways. I know mine is definitely the member card, if you will, that Jonathan has implemented. I'm definitely going to see how to create something similar to that. But let us know in the comments of this podcast what your takeaways were. And until the next podcast, this is your brother, your uncle, your favorite realtor's favorite realtor, signing off.